All right, folks, it's time. So get ready, get set, get comfortable, grab yourself a drink, maybe a little popcorn, because here comes another episode of The Next Conversation. I hope you enjoy. And we're live. Good to hear from you guys. It's hasn't been that long. We are in a good routine, which I like. New episode is out, and then we're gonna get this one in the bag as well. So, how you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. Thank you. Thanks to the Crow, um, giving me a weekly. Now it's a weekly thing, which I love. Giving me a weekly session where I can feel comforted and warm and fuzzy.
Yeah,
So,
I give you the soapbox, and then it's on you to
Yes.
get on it and to preach.
yeah, fair enough. So I'm good. I had a good weekend, which we may get into a little bit. Um,
No, I
as a
want to hear
tangent for
this.
the time.
I think
I
you should
mean,
just
it
go
might
into it
be
now.
able to. All right. So, fucking thanks, Joe. So, everyone, this is Joseph Mark to my right. We all know him. We all know the Crow, of course, and me, Bobby A. Welcome. And I on Friday night. What did I do on Friday
Is this a
night?
football factory story, or
It
are
has to
we?
be.
We it's a Bronx brewery story.
Wow.
All right.
Okay,
So
all
Okay.
right.
there's a
Back to your
place.
roots.
Yeah. So there's a place in right on like Morris, like not Morris Park. That's wrong. It's called, the neighborhood is called Morrisania. It's right off the Cypress 6 train stop, like Southeast Bronx. If anyone is familiar with that, um, there's a place called the Bronx Brewery, which is getting pretty popular these days. But now that we're all back out of COVID and everything, and everyone's going up, uh, but a couple of my friends who I grew up with, who I've known for 30 years, work there. So obviously, it's like a mini football factory in the Bronx, because when I go there, I'm known. I'm. It's what did I say last time? I was like one of the main characters. I'm the celebrity there when I go there, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I mean that I know everyone that works
You're
there.
a fixture.
Right. Yeah. A regular. It's like a
Mhm.
regular. It's like Cheers.
Yep.
You
That's
have
what we were talking
multiple.
about last
You
time.
have multiple cheers in
Yeah,
this in the city of New York.
yeah.
There are many places you call your home.
That's correct. So I was there on Saturday, and one of my buddies who just recently had a child finally came back. He was on leave, paternity leave, and he finally came back to work. So he was there, um, for the first time in a long time. And then the next day, I went back again because they were showing. They were showing. I get it. I have so much juice there, Joe, that I can get them to put on Premier League soccer. I just
Okay.
put it on. They put it on because I'm there, so I'm watching. I'm watching football, and that's what's happening, and not
Yes.
NFL football. So fuck that, because I know the draft for this weekend. Fuck the draft. Don't care about it. It was in Las Vegas, so we all know why I hate Las Vegas. Fuck Las Vegas.
Wait, hold on. Time out.
I hate Las Vegas.
Really? I'm shocked.
Yeah, man.
Why?
I never make
Yeah.
money. I never.
Okay.
Ah,
Okay.
I
okay.
never make money when I'm
I
in
forget
Las
that you
Vegas.
are a gambler.
That's why I thought you liked it, but I didn't. That makes sense. If you don't make
Well,
any money
I
there.
like playing blackjack, but I always get fucked over.
He likes to win. He just doesn't win often, I guess.
Yeah.
That's part
I
of the
mean,
game of Vegas, though.
We also have a little place called the Spearmint Rhino, which I've been known to frequent.
Oh God.
And for those, Chris, do you know what that is? You
No,
know?
I don't. Let me know.
It's how do I describe it? It's the the easiest way to describe this without me getting in trouble is it's the premier strip club in all of the United States.
Ah, okay. Now I
It's
understand.
the number one ranked strip club in all of USA. But I
And
also have personal reasons to dislike Las Vegas. So
yo, this is true.
yeah,
This is-
which
I,
you see,
I
which you know,
understand.
yeah.
I pick up
Okay.
what you're laying
Okay.
down.
Right. I'm not going to
Uh,
mention those. I'm not going to say that on air. But
Okay.
but anyway, we move on. We move.
Well,
So-
okay. So for this episode, we
Yeah.
had Joseph Mark, the Haitian Wanderer. He wanted to discuss current events, and the current event topic of his choice is what's going on with Twitter, Elon Musk, and I guess anything that is kind of within the sphere of that issue, that transition, that current event topic. So I don't know why. So usually I feel like it's me and Roberto who come up with the topics, and then Joseph is kind of like left to, jump in, but he might not necessarily like when we talk about ancient aliens. A lot of
Definitely
this
not.
stuff is like stuff you don't care about, but he does his best. He tries to
True,
give it
true, true.
110%, though I know sometimes his heart's not in it. So for today, I wanted to ask him, what do you want to talk about? What's kind of something that's on
Yeah.
your mind or that you've been reading about? And he wanted to talk about specifically, or he brought up something that's, you listening have heard about, and that's what's going on with Twitter and what went on with Twitter and the acquisition by Elon Musk. So I want to ask you, Joe, why, I don't know, did you have a particular thing or reason, or what do you think about what's going on?
So I've been talking with a coworker of mine, and he's
Name names.
I'm not
It's a
going to
court of law. This is
I-
like
I
the
don't-
Depp Heard case.
I don't feel like naming the name, but I will say that
Well, give us a hint for us that might be in
Yeah.
the know.
he is a man who
Does he have a mustache?
he has a goatee.
Is he from the Bronx?
Yes, definitely from the Bronx.
Okay, then
Yep.
you can
Yeah,
move on.
yeah.
I know who it is already.
But he has more of a conservative slash more so libertarian leaning, and it makes sense why he would champion the goings on of Twitter. So
Okay.
so from square one, Twitter was bought out by Elon Musk. He wants to make it more of a free wheeling, well, not freewheeling, but more of a free speech kind of atmosphere than it has been. There's been a lot more um, shutting down of controversial voices that have been um, throwing up tweets over the past like 4, 5, 6 years, and
That long?
yeah, it's been a while since Twitter really has gone very controversial in my opinion.
Okay, so keep going.
So Musk bought the company, took it private at the behest of the person that created Twitter, Jack Dorsey,
Mm-hmm.
because there's just a lot when you have a public company. I think everyone knows this. There's just a lot of talking heads that come into place, and it just makes it harder to make decisions that can really affect change or just kind of pin down what the company is trying to do. So people on the left are really getting up in arms about Elon Musk taking over the company because he says controversial things from time to time, and it's just causing this rift between people on the Twitterverse from people who want to kind of shut down people who say either outrageous things or people who just say things that they believe that are correct, versus people who want Twitter to be what it originally was, just an open square for people to toss out their ideas, their thoughts.
So okay, so thank you for Joe for kind of laying down like the foundation for any of those who don't know or haven't been keeping up with this. So that's kind of a good, just laying out the facts. I have a question for you before we really delve deep into
Mhm.
this, and it is what. Hold on, let me see. It might have just flown away from my mind. What is okay? Yes, here it is. Why did Elon Musk? What was his reasons? At least, what are the reasons he's stating for why he wants to take this company over? And then, what are the common complaints or fears of him taking this over? Could
So
you kind of explain those two things, and then we can kind of spiral off that?
yeah, definitely. The public version that he gave about him purchasing Twitter was that he wanted to make it more of like the open square for free thought, free expression that Jack Dorsey actually created when he um, made Twitter in the 2010s, and it makes sense on the surface. It makes sense because we live in an age of like COVID and war and thing a time where people can throw out misinformation and and that can affect people, especially on social media. And there's been this kind of crackdown on all of the social media sites, whether it be YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, of trying to get rid of that kind of stuff. I think the question that most people, or I wouldn't say most people, but a lot of people have been posing it's is it really their place to actually police that kind of activity on social media? And from my perspective, I think it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be their place to police that kind of activity unless it's like a physical threat that's been placed on someone. If I think
Mm.
humans are relatively smart enough to know when things are actively being posed as disinformation or propaganda versus just something that someone believes in that they might just disagree with. I don't think it should be something that a private company should police what private citizens say on that particular platform. Now, I just I don't know. I just feel like it's it's a double. I wouldn't say it's a double-edged sword, but there's definitely, if you can police one spectrum, you can police everything, and I think it's a slippery slope. That's where I wanted to go. It's a slippery slope
All right.
when it comes to that.
And just real quick, so that's like, so what is, for those who are like, I don't want Elon Musk running this company, like, what is their, can you encapsulate their voice? Like, what is their argument?
Gotcha. I think it's really more of his personality. I think that's the biggest part. Um, he has a boisterous personality. He says things off the cuff himself. He tweets things off the cuff that can tend to be controversial from time to time. But another big part of it is really more of him outright saying he's going to get rid of the policies that they've had in place to ban or temporarily ban people on Twitter that have said controversial things or have tweeted disinformation. And I think that's the controversy on the left that's been actively pushing against Musk buying the company.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you for setting the table. I have the napkin securely tucked in the collar,
Together.
and I'm ready to go to dinner.
There
All
we
right,
go.
Bobby A, what do you got? And
So
hold on, and I know, Robert, you're not a Twitter user. Joseph, are you a
I
Twitter
Okay,
user?
that's a good question. I was, but
Okay.
that was before all of this happened. I gave up. So actually, it's been part of our conversations and part of another conversation with a friend about how much time we spend on social media. So I decided to deactivate all of my accounts except for YouTube. So
Okay.
okay.
So
I
none of
am
us have any okay, none of the three of us are users
I
of
mean,
Twitter.
everyone knows my feelings on social media at
yeah.
this point. Come on. I mean, if you have it, if you don't, let's just say I'm not a fan. so,
So what about, okay, so then let's throw this out. So like, because I've kind of, I can't say I follow this like super closely, but it's kind of hard not to just
hmm
like pick up a lot of the details from the ether. So what about like Elon Musk? Whether you like social media or not, like it's here to stay. Like it is, and like
fair.
and there is like I'm not a Twitter user, but I can say there's probably utility in it. Like especially if you live in parts of the world where maybe it's like it's hard to get information, like wars, for example. I mean, there's unfortunately there have been multiple wars, or yeah, I mean, call them wars in the world since Twitter has been around, where like some of the best news came from people on the scene, like actual citizens who were tweeting about what was happening. So, I mean, I think there's utility. So, I guess what I wanted to propose as a question is part of his, like you said, Joe, is like one of his main things. I recall he put a survey out prior to buying it, and it was like, I'm paraphrasing, but I remember like maybe one of the options was like, or two. The question was like, how important is free speech, or how important should free speech be like for Twitter? Like, should that be its main like goal, like a culture of like this is a place where anyone can speak, and like in a sense let the market determine whose opinion has value. Like if people want to listen, they can listen. It's not our job to take away people's soapboxes. It's your choice to whether you want to listen to someone or not listen to someone. And how it's like because of its reach, there's like a social utility aspect, kind of like I don't want to say you have it's almost like morally just that you as a utility that people use that's become so popular that like you have to allow people to it needs to be free, right? That's like his thing, right? It needs to be free, it needs to be open, and like you said, Joe, unless you are like inciting violence, it's kind of like if you don't like someone's opinion, like it's okay, shame, like don't listen. But like everyone has uh, this is a place for everyone to speak. So what do you think about that, like that idea? Like is that something that you believe in or disagree with? Because I would say that like to what you said, Joe, the people who are not too happy with Elon Musk taking the company over, making it private, is, or for at least from what I heard, it's like he's going to make it the wild, wild west, and I think that's scaring a lot of people who maybe care or want to control like whose voices are heard and what the people can hear and what news to consume. So like what about that? Like generally speaking, just that idea, like what do you think Twitter should be that way or not? Like should it be this space that everyone has a like is it almost like I don't say you have the right, but like when like I'm trying to think how to explain this. Some like a libertarian would argue this: if you own something, it's yours to do with it as you like. You own Twitter. You want to make Twitter, let's say, a very liberal echo chamber where people's voices who you don't want to hear are not heard. Like to some degree, a libertarian would be like, no, it's you own it. It's yours. Do with it as you like. And then and Elon Musk is saying almost that it's kind of grown past that where it's like water. Like people have a right to use it and to be heard on it, and even the owner doesn't have the right to silence opinions that they might not like or think are dangerous. So like what about that idea?
I think you summed it up 100%. From my opinion, I think that's how it should be. It shouldn't be an echo chamber for one group or another. It should be a collective set of voices that can interchange ideas. That's pretty much the genesis of what Twitter was or what it's supposed to be. So I don't know why this. I just don't understand why you would want to shut out a voice that's differing from yours. One, it can help you kind of understand the opposing perspective, and two, you could actually sharpen your own tools in terms of combating the opposing side. So it's weird to me how in this particular situation, uh, people that I usually tend to agree with, people on the left, want to shut out voices on the right. It's kind of disconcerting.
It's true.
Disconcerting.
Go ahead, Rob. Sorry, I kind of cut you off. earlier.
It's all right. It makes for good comedy though. But what the
Hell
but I think Joe, you touched on a very, very important point. It's I think Twitter, the platform, and I think we could say the same for the general discourse of just the country as a whole.
The world.
The world.
Yeah.
It's so polarized. Everyone is picking sides, picking teams, and anything that doesn't coincide with their team, you have to be, as Corvo has said in the past, if you're not as upset about an issue as I am, then you're part of the problem. Why do I have to be that upset? Why can't I just be a rational person that's evaluating the issue and analyzing it from all angles and then give my opinion about it? Not that it matters, but why do I have to be just ranting and raving? As someone that rants and raves a lot, I can tell you that you don't want everyone ranting and raving, because then we get what Twitter is now. This is the whole point. It's just people yelling at each other, over each other. And I think Elon opening it up and being brutally honest about it and being like, this is what this really is. Let's not pretend it's anything else. It's refreshing. However, he's also getting a lot of stick for it, because now people don't like, they're coming after the political side and his, like we said, the moral side of it. So but at the end of the day, it's just someone on a computer, on a phone, posting an irreverent opinion that doesn't really hold water in the grand scheme of what actual life is. So I think once people realize that, if people would actually realize that on Twitter, that your opinion is not some kind of be all end all, then Twitter would be a good place. But everyone thinks that, and I'm going on the same rant I do about social media, where
Yeah.
people think they're on a pulpit. They think they're the priest giving a sermon to everyone. They're lecturing everyone on how life should be. If it wasn't that, Twitter would be fine. But I think people just from both sides. I'm not picking any side. From all sides, all angles, people think their opinion matters the most, and they're right. And anyone who doesn't vehemently back that opinion is evil and should be publicly humiliated. That's what Twitter is. And
I don't know. I personally don't have a problem with people who think that their opinion is the end all be all, but you don't have the right to shut out someone else's opinion. I just think
I agree.
That's wrong.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say is that with what the ethos of which he is like at least talking, what people do and what they say are two different things. So I don't know what he'll do, but let's say like what he's saying is a return really to like the ancient internet of like Twitter is not going to get quieter. It's going to get louder.
Yep.
Because certain voices that have been historically silenced, and I mean those voices are probably in a range of topics. I mean it's beyond politics, probably.
Most likely.
It's only going to get louder, and I think that's kind of like the question. Or if you get political, it's like there is like a that kind of separates people of do you let the internet be a wild place that you tread carefully at your own risk, or is someone's job to purify it and cleanse it? And it's like it's like old New York, you know what I mean? It's like 1970s New York.
Oh my
it's
god,
like,
you had to. You're gonna say,
but I'm saying it's a perfect example, because it's like, think about it, like a lot of the culture and the art, like the 60s, the Beat Generation, came out of a New York that was grimy as hell, dirty, dangerous. People had cold water flats. Like, can you even imagine? but people loved it, right? It's like if you ever talk to an older person in New York, it's like they look back on those years fondly because it was wild and shit went down. And I guess it's like with the internet, that's the question. It's like that is its roots, like a wild place for outcasts and outsiders. And then the question, like, you know, Elon Musk would be saying, like, that's what the internet is. That's what I'm going to kind of restore. And then you have its opposing view of like, no. We need a Giuliani character, just using him as an example, to cleanse this place, to get rid of the riffraff, to close down, you know, the porno shops and the drug dealers and whatnot, and make it a family friendly. And I'm all this is in jest, is in quotes, because it's all perspective of what's right. It's like that all depends, right? You know, but like that's like to me that's what the argument is. It's right. Like some people believe they are arbiters of like what is right, and a lot of these social media companies they've been doing that. They're like no, we're gonna control what we think is right and wrong, and what voices are harmful, and we're just gonna quiet them. We're gonna turn their mics down. So I guess it's like, yeah, like if the internet got wilder, do you think that would be a good thing or a bad thing? Is there an extent where you're like, you know, I kind of like thinking that maybe we need a Giuliani to clean this up a little bit. It's getting a little too wild. Or do you feel like, no, like that's, again, shred it at your own peril, but like, this is what it is. This is the wild, wild west. Like this is the digital wild, wild west. Jim West, Desperado, ain't got nada.
Oh my God.
Remember Lawless? It doesn't have to be Lawless. Remember that movie, Tom Hardy, Corvo's boy, Tom Hardy?
Yeah.
That's a great movie. And Shia LaBeouf, I believe.
Yeah, he was in that, yep.
All right. I'm not saying it has to be Lawless, but what bothers me the most is the self-righteous arrogance from people that don't genuinely care about any of the issues that are going on. They're just it's all a facade, and that's what that part of the internet pisses me off.
It really does. Like, you bring that up quite a bit.
Yeah, it does. That's the part that gets me going. But in terms
of, lie? Like, do you feel that
it's a lie?
Is that what it is? Like that you're disingenuous, and is that
absolutely
what bothers you?
Yeah, you're pretending to be a person that you're not. You don't really care. Fuck off. So it's but everything you said, Corvo, is correct. I think we still need the internet for the trading of information and gaining news. Like those are the good things about the internet that we didn't have 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Everyone can get news fast. Everyone can share their thoughts and communicate, and there can be a discourse. But we lost the plot when the discourse, basically the campfire, we were all sitting around the campfire, but instead of having a civil conversation, we started yelling at each other and picking sides. And that's the problem. It's not the internet that's the problem. It's the people. That's the problem. And it's the people that want to show off. They want to pretend that they're the most progressive person in the world, or the most conservative, both ways. Or I'm the most conservative guy. I'm gonna go into the woods. I'm gonna put my vest on, and I'm gonna go into the woods and kill something. That's what it is. That's what it is. And then they're toting their guns. It's both ways. It's from both sides, and that's why I love Bill Maher, and I love that. That's why people don't think about when they think about comedians like Joe Rogan and Bill Maher. They get a lot of shit, but they use common sense. They see both sides and they make a decision. But nowadays, if you don't get just furious with rage for one side or the other, people think, oh, you're part of the problem. Then it's not. How about I make an articulate intellectual decision, given all the evidence, do my analysis, and then I make a reasonable decision on what I like or not. And that's what I think Elon Musk, as much as people are fucking giving him shit for it, I think that's what he's going to bring to it. I think no voice will be silenced. but the voices that are clearly batshit, you can just don't listen to it because he's in. Yeah, but go ahead, Joe.
I
Go ahead.
will say one thing. I think what he's saying and what he wants to do, I think, are going to be two completely different things. I think he's going to turn or try to turn Twitter into like a Facebook Lite. He's going to try to monetize it. He's going to try to get ads. He's going to try to get targeted ads. Um, just
Oh, wait,
things.
wait, hold on. Why is that? Why is it for revenue, or he wants to learn about
No, for
it
revenue.
for revenue? Okay.
And I also think he wants it to be as a like free advertising for the companies that he owns.
I mean, he also has to get his like $48 billion back at some point.
He's not getting that back.
I mean, who knows?
Something with social, something like social media, you're never going to make your money back. It's not like Amazon where at some point you're going to make a return on investment. With social media, it's just not possible. He's not going to make it. What I think it's like 44 or 54 billion dollars back. That's it.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's-
I mean, I don't know. I mean, social media does.
43 billion.
Facebook makes money.
43. Okay.
Um,
Yeah, it's not like Facebook. Twitter is it's not like Facebook where they have ads and they sell user information. They don't do that stuff, and I kind of feel like that's the thing that's kind of being lost in this whole kind of discourse, is that there's a possibility that this could happen. He said he wants to change the monetary value of the company and kind of monetize certain things about Twitter. So
wow, that'd be interesting.
he's put that out there before, and I think that's the thing that people should be paying attention to. That
You know
no
why?
one is.
That's an excellent point. But you know why? Because I think Elon Musk wants to go to Mars.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
That's part of it. He wants to build a civilization in space. I think that's his ultimate goal for all of this. It sounds hilarious to say, but I think that's what he wants.
No, I mean, I think that's what he says he wants. So I mean, he said, I think he said it multiple times, like he wants to die on Mars. Like that is his goal.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But also, like to what you're saying, Joe, if recouping his value on this company is really unlikely, then it almost makes what he did even more impressive, because it was something that one could interpret as literally a genuine act of restoring freedom of speech, right? Like, I'm going to buy this thing that costs more money than some small countries generate in a year, knowing that there's a high likelihood I'll never recoup the money back. I'm going to pay it out of my pocket. And that takes, big balls. I mean, really think about that.
True.
Like,
I don't.
You know what I
I don't
mean?
think
Big-
anyone's ever. Said
he's
that
rich,
I
but
was.
still, that's a lot. I mean, it's not like if he was worth 240 billion or something like that. That's a significant. I mean, no, you aren't broke, but I mean, the richer you get, the harder it is to part with money. That's a substantial amount of money to part away with.
I don't think anyone's ever confused him with not having cojones. I don't think that's an issue.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. Definitely. If anything, he's got massive huevos rancheros.
I just think that this is like an
Grapefruits. As Vince McMahon would say,
Oh my God.
he has grapefruits.
He's got
You would say that.
grapefruits that are ready to be squeezed.
Yes.
I just
But go
I
ahead.
just think that this is a carefully thought out acquisition on two fronts. One, like you said, he wanted to be like more because of the dealings that he's had on Twitter where people tried to shut him out or cancel him. He wants to have it be more of a free thought, free expressing your opinion kind of atmosphere. But I also think it's an arm for him to show off or grow his business with SpaceX and with Tesla and all the other things that he's got going on. It's a way for him to kind of grow those companies. It could be free advertising for him on one end, and he can try to just get more exposure for what he's trying to do on those those aspects of his life.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, most billionaires at this point own some form of news media, right? It's just that in most cases they own kind of like the legacy media, newspapers and stuff like that, magazines. Twitter is news. I mean, in a sense, it is news. So I mean, it's from a straight like Machiavellian tactics. Like it's not. It makes sense to want to own or control to some degree an artery of news and communication. One thing you guys, I was reading from a tech perspective, which was kind of interesting, was that how Twitter. I mean, take everything I say with a grain of salt, but like how like Twitter has been not doing well for a long period of time. Like from a tech standpoint, they were saying, I was reading some people who were talking about this, was like how like it's lucky that it became so successful, but at a technological level, there's a lot of like cobwebs and like problems and like a lot of people who work there and get paid good salaries that don't do anything, and there's like issues, that problems that were never solved that have been problems for like the last decade. So I think like also that's like an interesting perspective, is that like he's going to gut this thing. Like he's going to remove so many people, and it's kind of interesting to see where Twitter can go if you get rid of a lot of the fat and put in people who are like ready to move and they're ready to work. Like that's the one thing I've heard about working for one of Elon Musk's companies, is that like you're going to learn a lot, but he makes promises, and it's like his employees' job are to like make shit happen, and like you move. It's like not a work-life balance type of life. Like he's going to make some promises about Twitter, and it's going to be like, God help the person who is tasked to try to make this stuff happen, because it's going to be a lot of work. But yeah, like I've heard a lot of stuff like for example, like one of the big complaints about Twitter is that there are huge bot armies. Like no joke, like there are certain countries that produce like massive bot armies that disseminate information, new propaganda, certain news, and like these are not real people. They're just accounts that are literally controlled by computer programs. Like it's not a person making comments and getting necessarily in arguments with people or inciting arguments. It's literally a computer program. It is like Mr. Smith in the Matrix. Like it's not a person.
Yeah.
And like that they've known about this as a problem for like 10 years, for a long
Agent
time.
Smith.
Agent Smith, thank you.
Yeah.
And like never sought to try to solve it. So I'm curious to see, like, from that perspective, a lot of good. Like Twitter might actually become a better product because people working on it are not just going to be collecting a paycheck per se. They're going to be like this is Elon's personal company, and they're going to try to make his vision a reality. So I thought that was interesting, because a lot of people, like
It's a
a
great
lot
point.
of the software engineers there are really like worried and are upset, because I've heard like their staff is gigantic and there's really not enough work for the amount of people that are on payroll. And like there's a lot of people who it's like an old company, you know what I mean? It's like like going to a college, and there's so many people that probably have great paychecks, but like they do nothing. You know what I mean? And it's just like their legacy, and they keep, like, for whatever reason, they just been there for like 10 years, 15 years. And you're like, no one ever takes the time to like look at the books and be like, dude, what is this guy John doing? He's getting paid $200K. What's his job? Oh, he sends report from, I don't know, Alex to Chris. That's all he does. He gets paid $200K. Like that's from what I
That's a
heard, like
good
that's
point.
kind of like Twitter, and they're like, a lot of people are just terrified because they're like, fuck, like I'm gonna lose my job.
Or I'm gonna have to actually do work.
Or I'm gonna have to be working like a maniac, because
Yeah.
I've heard it's like very hard to work like
That's an excellent
Tesla,
point.
SpaceX. Like There ain't no fucking around. It's
I
like
know.
it
They know
ain't work-life balance.
the man wants to build a civilization on Mars. They're like, he's not fucking. He's not fucking about. He's not. And that's
exactly.
a
And he has
great point.
limited
That's a
time,
great
right?
point.
It's like
Yeah.
he ain't getting any younger.
Right, exactly. That's a really good point. Um, so what I would say is I know actually a couple of people that work for Twitter, but they're more in the marketing, like advertising side,
Uh-huh.
and I can tell you that Elon's already shaking things up a little bit. Just to your point, so your suspicions or your intuition, Chris, is correct. Like people that were just seasoned veterans that can just collect a fat paycheck and just sit at their desk and twiddle their thumbs, that ain't happening anymore. It's over. Those days are over.
Well, I heard the board. He already fought.
Yeah.
He let the whole board go. I mean,
Mhm.
that's like, you're chopping off the head of like King Arthur's court. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's a
It's
big
already
deal.
happening. Yeah.
I mean, if you're a public company and you just turn them and you turn to private, you have every right to do that. So,
Oh yeah, I
course.
mean, I think he 100%. I think it's just kind of like an interesting thing. Is like here's this like from what I gather about Twitter, and I always ask this question like tech people. It's like it's kind of amazing to me like how certain like ideas or things take hold of like people, right? Twitter, if you think about it, like if you really break down what a Twitter is, it's like, all right, it's nothing that new, right? It's all right. People like to communicate with each other. There's all these applications where you can send messages. Here's a place where you can send messages. You create a handle, you can send messages. Here's the catch. It can only be, X number of characters. But in essence, like it's not a new idea, right? I mean, instant messenger has been you were kind of doing the same thing.
Mhm.
It's a little different in that you can see it, right? I can see other people, I can follow whatever. But it's not like it's not the equivalent of Elon Musk building a rocket that goes to Mars. Like they're not it's apples and oranges. They are not the same. Um but it's just kind of fascinating that like you can kind of cobble that together with like bubble gum and like twine and duct tape, and if people find it fascinating, like that's like that guy made his living. I mean, he made billions of dollars. Jack Dorsey became a billionaire from Twitter, and it's kind of interesting that like what people say about under the hood is that like it's cobbled together. It's not like the most sophisticated technology. It's just that, the masses love it. And if the masses love something, best believe you're going to make a fortune off it. I don't know what my point was with that. I just went off on a tangent.
But yeah. Get to I see what you're saying in the fact that he something was created that's become extremely popular, and when something is in the mainstream and it's fully vetted in the mainstream now, because and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube are far more important in terms of just learning things and seeing news or communication than any newspaper, or no one watches the news anymore.
No.
You just go on YouTube and fucking you put something in the fucking search bar
Mhm.
and you fucking listen to it.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
kind of the new news now, or the new
It is.
newspapers,
It is.
or the new
Yeah.
big four like television networks. That
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
that's what it is now.
It's new media, right? Like
Right.
that. This is the media of our generation. Even for our generation.
Mhm.
Like I didn't grow up. I didn't really read a newspaper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, Rob. Finish with your thought.
No. But it's the same point that both of you were making. We've entered into a new frontier, as they would say on Star Trek, where nothing like the days of sitting down, having your coffee, and relaxing and reading the daily newspaper, those are over. You get your news from Twitter and Facebook and fucking YouTube. But the flip side is what Corvo was saying earlier. There is an underbelly to that. Someone's controlling that. Now it's Elon Musk for fucking Twitter. You're getting your news from digital sources almost exclusively now. And to go back to some of our previous conversations, that is very alarming, at least for me. It's very alarming because people don't do their own research.
Hmm.
They'll just believe anything they see on the channel that they follow, which is what Joe said earlier, just an echo chamber of the channels that they all like. It's everything. They only follow the people that they like and what they believe, and they believe in the same thing. There's no more gray area. There's no more dialogue or discourse. And that's my biggest problem with this whole thing.
So what do you guys think? Okay, so this is what. Why do you think? So let's just say tomorrow. Let's say Elon. Let's say everything he wants to happen. Let's say take out the advertising because I mean, hey, if you want to advertise, you want to advertise. Like I'm used to seeing ads. But let's just say it became like let's imagine he went into the operating room and in a drawer is a bunch of these rules that are excluding certain people from the conversation, right? So let's say he flips a switch and all of those rules no longer are in effect, right? And it becomes like, let's call it a even playing field. What do you think that much will change? Because like that is like let's say if you want to look at this from a political spectrum, it's like that is the argument I've heard to some degree from people who would identify as like far left progressive. It's like Elon Musk is a danger to, I don't say society, but whatever you want to call, whatever adjective, because he is going to unleash the Kraken, which is like all of these people who are, from some people's eyes, all Nazis, all Hitlers. And I guess my question is like that's a real fear. I mean, I think even I saw something today. It was like Jeff Bezos and Tim Cook are like saying something to the effect of like, if you
Oh yeah, I know.
if you flip the switch, they use a certain like I forget what they're calling like these types of rules. Like there's going to be a consequence. Like we're going to not do something or we're whatever. I forget what they said exactly. But like even they're like, if you release the Kraken and let all of these dangerous voices free, we're gonna do XYZ. So like my question to you guys is like, do you really think people are gonna notice a difference?
No, I think it's already a shit show on Twitter. Well, I mean, I've been off for like a month and a half, but when I was there, I just thought it was already a shit show to begin with. More like an entertaining shit show. And
Yeah, like do you think if Donald Trump was able to get back on Twitter, or who's the one guy, Alex Jones was on Twitter, do you really think, like that's the question? I'm not on Twitter. It's like, do people have are they so weak that literally the seeing of someone that they don't like's words on a
Yes.
glass screen in
Yes.
front of them brings them to their knees with rage?
Yes.
yeah, it does happen.
What the
Yeah.
we need an invasion from an alien species to put life in perspective.
Yeah, but
again.
Chris, before
Nah,
you,
I think they would turn around if they saw our civilization. They would turn right around. They
yeah,
wouldn't even.
yeah. But Joe,
I mean, unless they like the way we taste, they might be like, "This is some easy
Oh my
land.
God.
We're gonna start cultivating here, start laying out some bodies, man. We'll have some human steaks for days."
yeah, that's right.
Go ahead.
But
Sorry,
but it's,
what did
it's
you
all
say,
right.
Rob?
But before Joe, before you finish, it's what we were talking about before. Chris, it does happen. It happens way more often than you would think. But a lot of it, as you said, is disingenuous. They don't really care about these issues. They're just doing it because it makes them look cool on the internet. And that's the element that I would like to explore more. It's not yet, yes, they're disagreeing with it. Fair enough. That's fine. You can have your own opinion. But a lot of these people are doing it because, oh, I can get showered with likes and comments if I say this. And that's the problem.
So they're not true believers. That would be your
Yeah.
perspective, is that the majority of these people
Oh,
are not true
definitely not.
believers. They're just trying to collect like social
Points.
Yeah, okay. Coin.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like brownie points, exactly.
I think there's also I think there's like a influence and a power um, dynamic that goes into play when you want to kind of shun the other side. If there's a particular voice that's gaining more steam, that it takes away from the voice that you have, and I can see how some people would want to kind of shut that down. It just is. I just still think it's a wrong play to make. You should make your case, and if it's not working, then reevaluate, and then try to go at it at a different slant. But to try to shut out an opposing point of view kind of makes you look weak, and it's just morally not a good thing in my opinion.
So who do you think, like, all right, once he flips the switch, like, who is the person, who do you think is the boogeyman that, like, certain people are like extremely afraid of,
I don't
like, being hurt again?
I don't think it's Trump because he said he's not going to go back onto the platform. But I do think that there's a level of fear, especially with the end of the year coming up with the midterm elections and then 2024, where if someone does come in and fills a void that he could possibly leave, that they would that they would exploit Twitter to their advantage. And I think that's where a lot of the trepidation comes from. I just think that if you had power and influence and the will, you should be able to combat that. I just don't see why you should kind of cut off a differing voice. I think another aspect of it too that I think not many people are talking about in that space is COVID. I think there's this idea that there's a COVID denial or COVID disinformation, and people on the left are using that as a way to kind of cut off people on the right who either don't think that COVID is a big deal, think that it's a lie, or kind of put out information saying that it's not as bad as it is made out to be.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of
Yeah.
it. That I feel like they're talking more about politics, but they're not talking more about that kind of aspect, which is weird to me. I figured if you're gonna make that kind of that discussion in terms of not having it be as free, they would make that argument, but they're not doing it, which is weird to me. But
I might have to get on Twitter. I don't now. I'm like I'm
Oh
thinking
my
about it now because I'm just
God.
curious to see. Like I kind of want to like watch.
No,
the
it's gonna
spectacle
piss you off. Don't do
I,
it.
a
I
little bit.
wouldn't.
I think it would.
I don't know about that. It's fun. Like this, it's not only politics and news, and there's a lot of different things where you can find your
There are some cool shit.
yeah. It's fun, and you get to just be a wise ass if you want to. You can just tell out your like a simple little blurb that you had throughout the day. It's a lot of fun.
Joe, what is the most wise ass tweet you ever
Oh
made?
God.
Like something that you were like when you wrote it, like you were proud. You're like, this is good. This is funny.
This is
or
gonna
whatever.
rile people up.
Or yeah, or this is gonna like you cut someone a little bit. You're like, yeah, that was good. Like, I know you recall it. Come on, man. Like,
It's probably something stupid like criticizing like Batman versus Superman, like the director. I call him like a hack because he loves doing like these like
Oh,
cool
God.
no but
Fuck. Fucking comic book shit. People get fucking worked up about that. You talking
Yeah.
about Zack Snyder?
Yep, Zack Snyder.
Yeah, dude, fuck Zack Snyder. Fuck him. That's what I say. But go ahead.
No, but you'd be surprised how many people love his work, and I get it. He has visually appealing stuff, but you say one thing wrong on Twitter and you get jumped on. It's insane.
I know. See, Corvo would appreciate this. What about the directors like Oliver Stone and Alfred Hitchcock? People getting worked up over Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder, fuck Zack Snyder. He's a nobody. In my opinion, he makes computer movies. There's no
Oh
acting.
my
There's no
god.
sets. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
No, you're
Joe,
right.
am
You're
I
right.
wrong?
You're right.
So he
And
makes
well,
computer movies. So
yeah, no, you're right.
he makes movies on a fucking computer. Come on, let's not get worked up about Zack Snyder. Even though I just got worked up about Zack
Yeah, I was
Snyder.
gonna say.
See,
I was gonna
that
say.
but that's my whole point. It's fun to have that kind of discourse on Twitter. You get to see different point of views, and just to cut that off is just wrong. It's just wrong.
Interesting, Joe. You're a pretty free speech person. I kind of feel like. I feel like this has come up in conversation before.
Y-
Um,
Yeah, I would
so
classify myself as that.
is there a voice that you, I guess this is the question. It's like, are you so free speech that it's like a libertarian again? It's like, I think that their line would be all speech is free unless it's incites violence. Like that's literally like that is the that is the only point of which it's like, no, like now we have to do something to stop you. Like, do you have a line? 'Cause I guess that's the question when it comes to a lot of this stuff. It's like, and Elon Musk would say, whether he does it, but like his it seems like there's no line. It's kind of like, I think he even said in response to a question, was kind of like, unless he's like, we're gonna obey the law, but unless something is not, if it's not breaking the law, like it's gonna be fair game. Like this is what it's gonna be. So like for you, is there a line of which you're like, you know what, it's not breaking the law, but like, nah, like that we need to squash that.
No,
Or for you, is it no? It's
no.
like, it's freedom of speech is freedom of speech.
Yeah, I definitely don't consider myself a libertarian, but when it comes to things like speech and things like that, no, I don't think unless it's a direct threat to a specific person, not like this nebulous kind of idea or tweet about just a group or whatever.
Yeah, like if the KKK wanted to do tweets about whatever they believe,
It's
like,
whatever.
do you think that's okay?
I have no problem with that.
Nazis
No,
talking about how like Jews XYZ,
no,
like not saying we should do something, but like, putting out their philosophy.
that
That's okay.
yeah, I don't have an issue with that
Like,
as long as it's not a direct physical threat, then that's just the way they believe. That's what they believe. I have no I have no say in terms of trying to shut out what they believe.
yeah,
That's just the
interesting.
way I think.
I mean, I
All
think
right.
this is going to be an interesting experiment because it's like freedom of speech. I forget how someone has explained freedom of speech to me in one way. I forget how they worded it exactly, but it was kind of like freedom of speech it's a tough thing. It's kind of like freedom of speech is freedom of speech. It's like it's something that you're not going to like all the time,
Mhm.
and like I think for a lot of people that's hard. It's hard to palate that. You know what I mean? It's like cuz when you break it down, it's like, all right, if you're for freedom of speech, that means Nazis, pedophiles, um
yeah.
people who like want to fuck animals, you know what I mean?
Eating
It's
Oh
eating
like,
God.
babies, eating babies.
I mean, like to be more, not to be morbid, but like, do these people exist and they have opinions, and I guess that's like, that is the dark side of freedom of speech. It's like, all right, you want your cake, you're going to eat it too. It's like, you want freedom of speech, get ready to deal with the filth.
But here's the thing. It's a private company. It's not like it's a governmental agency. It's if honestly, if he wanted to take the company private and make it whatever he wanted to make it, then that's what it is. It's a private company. I just don't I don't understand the uproar about one him just buying it in general, and two what the potential could be for it. Even on the things that I kind of disagree with kind of trying to monetize it like what Mark Zuckerberg did with Facebook. I would disagree with that, but even it's a private company. He can do whatever you want with it.
Well, but that's, I mean, that leads us into a completely like different
Hmm.
argument, but like, because that's the question, right? Like, I think what Elon Musk said in various tweets was that that Twitter, and this is a conversation, this is more a philosophical conversation for a different day, but like, can a private company's utility at some point transcend the owner's personal desires for it? And that's kind of that is a question. I mean, that could be a conversation we could talk about in length. But
Yeah.
that's like when Elon Musk is saying Twitter is like the town square, and that no one has a right to really control whose voice is heard there because it's become a town square for the world. In a sense, you're saying that social utility transcends someone's opinion, which transcends a personal owner. Like, right? I mean, in a sense, that's like kind of what he's saying. It's like, if you're an extremely liberal person, I'm just using liberal, or extremely
either way,
right wing person, it's kind of like, it seemed like what he was trying to say was like, you can't turn this into an echo chamber. It's somehow metamorphosized into something that is a social utility that everyone has the right to use to voice their opinion. And in a sense, that transcends what you, the owner, might want to hear there. And that's kind of that's a philosophical argument. I have no idea what the right answer is.
Yeah, I don't think there's a right answer, but I like the way he put that in the fact that you're saying, okay, like no one's opinion or interpretation or perspective is superior to another person's. Could you have a discussion about it? Yes. Is maybe one thing better for the collective than not? Okay, we can have that conversation. But the fact that people are just so stubbornly morally saying whatever they spew out, whatever they type into that fucking Twitter box is better. It's the words that I'm typing out or saying are better than yours. That's where I think that's the core of the problem. If that makes sense. It's more of a I think I'm better than you type of thing.
Yeah. So I was just looking at this one tweet, and it's kind of interesting. I think this was one of Jack Dorsey, like right before Elon Musk bought it, and he says something like, he's like, the days of like Usenet, like all these old internet stuff, like Usenet, IRC, the web, old school email. He's like, they were like amazing that time period, and he's like centralizing discovery and identity into corporations damaged the internet. And he's like, I realize I'm partially to blame.
I was gonna say
he regret it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, he's part of
that's
that.
what it was. I mean, you got to think like like, because now I'm going in the tech area, so like I kind of consume certain tech voices, but like the old internet, like before these massive social media companies, like there was an internet before them, right, ladies and gentlemen? Like, if there was. That was a wild place. Like, that was the world of like forums and like.
I was just gonna say that forums.
Yeah, you would hunt and peck to try to find things. Like anyone could. It was just more easy. It was easy, right? It was like easy but dangerous. Like you could probably stumble into like crazy dark rabbit holes. You still could, but like nowadays, I mean, I know for myself, like my use habits of the internet are like, I don't really go. You probably do this more than I do, Rob, because you're a little bit more of a digger than I am. You're much more. Like, I'll go on YouTube, right? And then I go to Reddit, right? And then like it's like living in New York and not venturing past your block. Like, I don't go to these random places. I'm like, the familiar spots. And I think that's a lot of people. And these massive social media companies have become like, this is, oh, okay, I'm going to go to my bar down the street.
Yeah.
And let me go get a bagel at this bodega. And let me go get
That's a
like
great analogy. That's
you know
well
what I mean?
said.
I'm gonna
Actually,
go
I
down the
love that.
street to like
I love that.
here I go to the gym. Here I go get my groceries.
I love
And
that.
that's it. Like these are my familiar places. And the danger with that is just like you said earlier, Rob, it's like, well, those are all controlled by certain people. And if you're getting your information only from them, you're only going to be getting the information that they allow you to see. Same with YouTube, right? I'll go on YouTube, I'll see the same videos every time. You know, but back in the day, you had to venture, you had to go search and find these little
That's right.
nuggets. And it was just different. I think it was just a different place.
Yeah, you had to be Ed Harris. Remember the scene in The Abyss when Ed
Oh
Harris
my
goes
God.
all the way down and he discovers this new world? You
Yeah.
both know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. That's what the internet was in 1998 when we were growing up. Not to give away our age, but that's what
I mean, it was I mean, the internet was a that's that's the trade-off, right? It's that it's old New York versus new New York. And there I mean,
he's
it's
right.
true,
He's
'cause
right though.
There's a legitimate trade-off. Like, would you really want I mean, we didn't grow up in the 70s.
No.
But we've watched
Thank
movies.
God.
Would you really want to live in New York in the 70s? I wouldn't.
Really? I thought you revered the
No.
70s.
Wait,
Okay.
wait, hold on.
I'm
But
surprised.
would you at least want to appreciate people that grew up in the 70s? That's the
Oh,
difference.
you appreciate them 100%. But it's like, do you want to live in New York where muggings were like a common occurrence?
No, of course not. Yeah.
Where you go to Times Square, still a place I don't want to go. But you might get mugged, you might get pickpocketed, where everyone's trying to sell you drugs, where there's prostitutes, where there's, you know.
I mean,
again,
the last
it's
two things aren't that bad.
but like again, it's like if there's a trade-off. It's like, and I talk to anyone who's elderly in New York, I hear two things, and it's in the same breath. It's like they lament what was lost in New York, but at the same time, in the same conversation, they're like, "Man, it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot safer." So I mean, it's a trade-off, and I think that's like the Twitter thing, and that's really when you hear, I think a lot of these like, I just want to say left because I feel like that I can't think of a better adjective.
No, that's fine.
You know, the people who are trying to say like there's certain voices that are dangerous, there are certain ideas that are dangerous,
and
it's in the society's good if those voices and opinions are not really allowed to be seen or heard. And I think it's like kind of like the same thing. It's like, yeah, freedom of speech is it's gonna be New York in the 70s. You're gonna hear a lot of interesting things. You're gonna be exposed to a lot of interesting things. But again, you're gonna be exposed to a lot of things. Go ahead. Sorry, Joe.
No, you're once again 100% on this. I just think it's just not anyone's place. However dangerous it very well could be, those thoughts. It very well could be 100% dangerous. But who are we to shut down that line of thinking?
Okay, cool. Well, here, I don't want to beat a dead horse, so like I want to wrap up with this. What is one voice that you would like to hear that you might not be hearing on Twitter?
I'll let Rob go with this one.
That's a good question. Holy shit. I'm gonna go. If I were to give Twitter some kind of like, I would say direction, I would say let's not one voice. Let's create like a what's the word I'm looking for? A town hall meeting, like a town hall meeting feel, rather than a picket line yelling at each other feel.
That would be cool.
You see what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Town hall feel, where we all talk about everything in a fucking civilized manner, and we don't yell at each other and disparage each other and insult each other. Bingo.
Bobby A catchphrase. Bingo.
All right, how about that for Joe? Let's go with that. So what else, rather than one voice? So either one voice or like, what is one suggestion? Like if Elon Musk or someone who is in, in a position to make a change, what is something that you would like to see change, or if it's something that existed in old Twitter that you would like to see come back?
That's the thing. I consider myself someone who doesn't like to glorify individuals. That's just not my thing.
Or or a feature, like what Rob said, like he said, like a town hall meeting kind of feel. Like if you don't want to pick a person, what is a feature or a quality or something about the platform that you're like, I would like to see this change or be created for Twitter.
This will never happen, but I think like a screen time kind of feature, like because the thing with social media that I don't like is you just get swallowed up and you keep scrolling and scrolling. If there was a way where you can set like a certain time frame where you can only go on for a certain period of time, then that would be perfect. Um, it's just never going to happen because that goes against the business model of what social media is supposed to, well, what they want it to be. But yeah, just a self-imposed time frame where you can log off and kind of decompress away from social media. That would be my thing.
Okay, that's good. I mean, they do that. I think that's kind of something that's
Yeah,
going on in
yeah, yeah.
China right
Yeah.
now. All right, so
Really?
then
Okay.
let me think. What would I want to see? So I've thought about this a little bit because I've thought about if I was to make a platform, what I would have. So I might be giving an idea away. I would like. I'm not going to give away all my ideas, but this is one. I would like there to be recourse, so in some method of recourse for people saying things. So, like, if I say Joseph Mark is, I don't know, a thief and a liar, I don't know, I'm just throwing something out. Or Joseph, I don't know, Joseph Mark is whatever, fill in the
Hmm.
blank. That you could be like, all right, man, prove it. Like, and then it's like, if you can't prove it, there's going to be some consequence. Like, you're not allowed to be on Twitter for like the next day or 2 days or 3 days. Where like somehow programmatically there's a way to like call bullshit on someone's like, all right, dude, like you want to say what you want to say. Well, there's gonna be situation. I'm going to Twitter sue you, and if you can't provide evidence, you're blocked for a month. You can't use the platform. I think that'd be interesting because I think it would like change. It's like the equivalent of someone talking shit in New York now and someone talking shit in New York in the 70s. And now you can say whatever you want because there's a good chance no one's going to do anything. New York of the 1970s, especially if you were taking a train into Queens or Brooklyn, if you act a fool, like there's a good chance more than one person might be down to throw down. Like, no,
Oh, you're getting a switchblade in the neck.
correct.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with that, I mean, I didn't live in the 70s, but I would imagine
Oh,
to a degree, people were a little bit more cautious. Now in New York, for example, it's like you have some of these homeless people that will get in your face and do crazy things
hmm
and almost shame you to, shame you. You'll walk away from them when in reality, it's like, dude, you might not have done this back in the day because you might have got a steel boot in the face.
Yeah.
There were consequences.
I
I mean,
never really
consequences.
experienced that in New York. That's really more like a West Coast thing.
I mean,
Oh,
That
no,
dude,
no,
I've
no, no,
gotten
no.
yelled at by homeless people
really
in
in
New
New York.
York.
Oh,
Yes.
hell yeah.
Yes. I've seen people, and I've definitely seen
I've
it.
only experienced that in like
Listen,
LA and Seattle.
LA is probably even
Yeah.
worse,
yeah,
but
LA
like
is
I've
worse,
seen
yeah.
it in New York. Especially, I've seen it increase in the last 2 years in New York
Wow.
significantly.
Yeah. But I mean, aside from the homeless issue, my parents grew up in the Bronx in the 70s, exactly what the Corville is describing. Let's just say it was a different time. That's all I'm gonna say. There's different things people had. But I think to tie it all back around to round it up on a social media thing, there were no cameras or people viewing everything. Now every day every day you walk around, every single person that you pass has a camera, and they can take footage of things. In the 70s, I mean, you can get away with all. It's like what Frank. It's like what Danny DeVito says in
Oh,
Always
man.
Sunny. He's like, it's 1776. We can get away with it. You can just get away with it. No one is gonna know what's happening. It's a different
Oh
time.
my god.
But
Yeah,
Corvo
it's
is right.
true.
You just my parents told me what it was like in St. Mary's Park in the Bronx. If everyone wants to go off 148th Street or the 6th Street in the Bronx, it was fucked. It was pretty fucked. It was pretty fucked up, and no one got caught because there's just literally not a single camera around.
Different times.
Different time.
Well, guys, any other thoughts? I know this will be something that we can kind of talk about another day as it unfolds, because I mean this is current events, so we'll see. We're going to see how this all plays out. Hopefully for the better, but hey, maybe for the worse. We'll find out. So, any other thoughts? Are you guys good?
I would just say if you're in that spectrum in the Twitterverse or just social media in general, and if you happen to be a part of like the discourse, just use it as a way to sharpen your tools. That's the way I see it. You shouldn't really look to just shun the other side. Sharpen your tools. I mean, you might learn something in the process too.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that life lesson for this
I
episode.
like that. And my
Sharpen your tools.
Yeah, I like that. And my last remark would be similar. If we could learn to just have a civil conversation, Twitter would be cool, Instagram would be cool, Facebook would be cool, but there's so much animosity and polarization. That's, or even worse, like showing off, one-upping, being like the arrogance that I'm talking about, and the hypocrisy. If we can just get past that, these things wouldn't be bad. But I don't know, man. As humans, I don't know if I think we're too far gone. I think we've already described. But yeah, that's my final note. So go ahead, Chris.
No, it's all good. Thank you ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to another episode of The Next Conversation. We'll see you again soon.
Yeah, peace.